in a way, you can't really expect everyone else to understand because you yourself are still trying to figure out what's going on and why it happened. And the doctor looked at me and she said, you know what, let's just take a minute, just take a deep breath. I just kept thinking to myself, I don't want to. I don't want to take a minute. I don't want to take a deep breath. I don't want to spend any more time in this moment than I'm forced to. So just tell me what I have to do to get past this. My name is Garoffolo. I'm 25 years old, and this is my story. I met Zach, my husband, at church when I was 15. When we were 18, I decided I was gonna go on a date with him. I was like, all right, you know, we'll see what happens. And it was one of those things like, when you know, you know. And I knew after that day that I was gonna marry him. Like, he was my guy. We got engaged when we were 19 and married this summer. We both turned 20. We got a lot of crazy looks from people, a lot of questions. We got married, and you know, we decided, because we were both 20 years old. He was in college full-time. I was doing online college full-time, but with also working a full-time job. So we both decided, you know, that we didn't want to try and have kids right away. It was just not the right time. We were living with his parents. It would have been super inconvenient for us and everyone else. So we decided, you know, we've got plenty of time. We'll wait a couple of years.
Watching everything you do.
So what's all that stuff on the top of her head? It's called hair. Someday you will have some.
See you up there.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Love you too.
We can probably use the stroller.
That would be good.
Thank you, sir.
She can throw that in the left.
4 months after we got married, I, on a whim, one day thought, I'm gonna take a pregnancy test. I don't know, I just had this funny feeling, and so I took the pregnancy test and I looked down and I saw this very faint little second line. So right away I called my sister-in-law, didn't call my husband, didn't even tell him that I was taking the test. I called her and I was like, hey, if there's a second line, even if it's really, really mild, does that mean I'm pregnant? And she was like, yeah, you're pregnant. So it really took me by surprise. It took Zach by surprise. We were not expecting this at all. We had only been married for 4 months. How are we supposed to tell my in-laws that we were living in their house and we were about to have a baby? But we just looked at each other and we said, you know what? Kids are a gift. They're blessings from God. We're gonna take this, we're gonna go forward with it, we're gonna trust God. So we are on our way to Milford Christian Church, and tonight I am a part of an acoustic concert. They're doing a fundraiser for their church, and I am one of 4 artists that's going to be singing tonight. So I was the typical new pregnant mom. I wanted to know every week what size it was, where we were in the pregnancy process. I would look, I would go to those pregnancy websites where it would tell you, oh, this week your baby's the size of a lentil, you know? I'd be like, oh my gosh, my baby's the size of a lentil. You know, I get so excited, and I'd call Zach and he'd be at school and I'd be like, guess what? Our baby's the size of a lentil this week. And we started to get really, really excited to be parents, even though we had absolutely no idea what was to come or what we were doing. I didn't feel the typical pregnancy symptoms. Like, some women have morning sickness or they feel, the pregnancy pains, and I wasn't feeling any of those. The only thing that I remember feeling was I was a little extra tired, and I was waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning craving cereal. We scheduled our first ultrasound for 8 weeks, and, I was still really early in my pregnancy, and all I could think about was, oh my gosh, I'm going to see my baby. I'm going to see my baby on the ultrasound screen, and I'm so excited. So Zach and I went to the doctor, and I just remember the ultrasound tech being really quiet for a good couple of minutes. And I was laying there thinking, what's going on? How come she hasn't said anything yet? And then I looked over at Zach. He was sitting off to the side, and he stood up and he stared at the ultrasound screen very intently, like he was looking for something, and he couldn't find it. And I was like, what's happening? What's going on? And finally the ultrasound tech broke the silence, and she said, so I am not seeing an embryo, and I'm not detecting heartbeat. You are pregnant, there's just no baby. I don't think tears have ever flowed so quickly from my eyes. And I was really confused, and I was like, I don't understand. How's that even possible? I've never even heard of that. And she said, well, she said, you have something called a blighted ovum. And I was like, what is that? And she said, it's basically when the sperm and the egg meet, they only have enough genetic structure to make the sac with the placenta, but not enough to make the embryo itself. So you are pregnant, just with an empty sac. You have no baby.
When we found out that we were pregnant, I was so excited, and I had, all these thoughts and aspirations and excitement for what was to come. It was really exciting. I was already, picturing how they were going to look, and if they were going to be a boy or a girl, what we would name them. And so when we went in for the first ultrasound, and we found that we were going to have a miscarriage, it was I didn't believe it at first. I was like, they got to be wrong. It's not. This isn't right. Something's wrong here. And it didn't hit me, for a while until well, at least that day. It didn't hit me until later that I wasn't going to be having, a son or daughter.
I looked at my husband, and I think he was just as confused as I was, and just as hurt. If you know Zach, you know that he's the guy that wants like 1,000 children. Like, he just wants to keep having kids. We would be another Duggar family if it were up to him. In the moment I realized I couldn't do that for him, I felt bad. It was like something had been taken away from him. We sat down in the doctor's office, and the doctor was sitting there, and it was just silent. And I looked at the doctor. I said, okay, so what now? And the doctor looked at me, and she said, you know what, let's just take a minute, just take it in, just take a deep breath. And I just kept thinking to myself, I don't want to. I don't want to take a minute. I don't want to take a deep breath. I don't want to spend any more time in this moment than I'm forced to. I'm not in a moment right now where I want you to tell me everything's going to be okay and all this. Just tell me what I need to do to get past this. That's all I want to know. she said, okay, well, you have 3 options moving forward from here. The first option is, you could wait it out and just wait for your body to reject on its own. But the risks with that are that if your body waits too long, it could be a really painful, terrible miscarriage. The second option, she said, was, she said we could prescribe you with a medication that would cause your body to reject quicker. But again, that would still cause you to go through all the pains of miscarriage, and you don't know how many days that might last for. And then she gave us a third option. She said, the third thing that we could do for you is a DNC, where we'll schedule the surgery. It'll be a short surgery, and we'll take care of it for you. You don't have to worry about anything. You're in, you're out, you're moving on with your life. And I chose that one. I chose the DNC because I didn't want to have to deal with days of pain and having to constantly think about what just happened. And it's one of those like really confusing times, because with that particular type of miscarriage, when you have a blighted ovum, you've already spent a few weeks of your life processing the fact that there's a human inside of you and trying to feel that connection and trying to get ready for motherhood. And then once someone tells you, oh, there's nothing in there, you're really confused, and you're like, well, am I crazy then? How do I miss something so much that was never there? How can I be so sad about something that never existed? And it really leaves you feeling pretty screwed up.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I'm gonna head in, babe.
Okay.
I remember that day feeling really alone, feeling like I was completely by myself. The day of my surgery was the same day as one of the biggest wrestling tournaments in the county. And so my husband, being a wrestling coach, he came with me to the surgery in the morning. He brought me home, he got me settled, and then once I got settled at home, he left right away to go to the tournament. And everyone in the house was gone. I mean, I married into a big wrestling family, so they were all at the tournament, and my mom was the only one who stayed with me, and I thank God for that woman every day, because her being there meant more to me than I think she'll ever understand. For like a year after that, I was so angry and so bitter, not at God, but at everyone else. Because it seemed like after that had happened, everyone else just moved on with their lives and forgot the whole thing. And I was left alone to keep dealing with it. And I didn't know how. And when you miscarry, it's like no one really knows how to respond to that situation. I mean, you don't even really know how to respond to the situation, let alone everyone else in your life. So in a way, you can't really expect everyone else to understand, because you yourself are still trying to figure out what's going on and why it happened. I was really upset with my husband for so long, because I felt like the day I had my surgery, he brought me home, he sat me on the couch, and then he just left me. And I just remember thinking, even my husband walked out. And it wasn't until like I had gone through the proper healing that I realized he was trying to figure out what was going on. He was hurting in a way of his own. It took a really long time to heal from that. I never wanted to ask God why, but I always made it a point to tell God that I didn't understand. I'd say, God, I'm not going to ask why, but I don't understand. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I had to forgive my husband, and we came to a place where we could really understand each other, and we had to look at each other and say, you know, neither one of us are alone in this. We really felt like God had healed us from that. We looked at each other and we said, you know what, this is not the end. God's going to give us kids. God is going to give us children in the right time, and it's not always going to be this way. We're going to trust God, and we're going to walk with Him together, and that's what we did. Not my first pregnancy. I had 2 pregnancies prior to her that went south, and I've been married to my husband for 5 years. So over the course of 5 years, it's been a real road to walk. But you know, I'm when I look at her, I see a blessing, and when I look at her, I see a promise. And you know, the previous pregnancies are not something that I discuss or talk about usually with people, and it's certainly not anything that I've talked about over a microphone. But I was rummaging through some old songs and found a song that I wrote a year after my first miscarriage. It's hard to explain how you feel, and it's hard to, you know, kind of put on paper and into words what's going on in your life and in that season. And sometimes you just have to sit a while and be silent and let God kind of talk to you and show you what's going on in your own heart, because sometimes you're just really confused. And so I came to a place about a year later that I felt like I could finally get those words out on paper and in a song. So so this song is called Lullaby. There's a sadness I can't fight as I whisper in the night. God, I can't understand why. Not a sound that I can't hear, but the falling of my tears, and the sound of deafening silence passing by. Hush, little baby, don't you cry, 'cause Jesus has a song for you tonight. Lullaby, lullaby, sleep sweet tonight, as I face another long sleepless night. And though you're in your heavenly cradle and Jesus holds you tight, I just want the chance to sing you my lullaby. Lullaby. Oh, I feel so far from home, nobody's here and I'm alone, 'cause they could say I'm sorry and move on. But now years pass me by, and I'm still wondering why I hold you, baby, blanket, but you're gone. Hush, little baby, don't you cry, 'cause mama's trusting Jesus tonight. Lullaby, lullaby, sleep sweet tonight, as I face another long and sleepless night. And though you're in your heavenly cradle and Jesus holds you tight, I just want the chance to sing you my lullaby.
can hear you, Jesus, singing through the tears, singing, hush, little baby, don't you cry, 'cause Daddy's gonna heal your heart tonight. Lullaby, lullaby, sleep sweet tonight, as I step out of the darkness into light. And I may not understand, but He holds me in His hand, and He holds my little baby in His arms, singing lullabies, singing lullabies, singing lullabies. Thank you guys very much for having me, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. God bless.
This is the ultrasound picture from the second pregnancy. This is our little Peanut. You know, we love all of our children no matter how long we had them for. And you know, that's the baby box.